Hello, my sensational students. Welcome to Bloom and Grow Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is a writing lesson. It is suitable for Year 5 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. And it's another one of my lessons where I look at one of my students' writing samples and I give feedback on it. And I do this because it's a really effective way of improving your own writing. So we're going to start off by looking at the stimulus that the student used, and then I'm going to read this girl's writing. She's done a lovely job. And then we're going to look at areas where she could improve. And there's a little bit of a theme coming through with some of my students at the moment. There seems to be a lack of effective resolution. So that's what we're going to be looking at in today's lesson, making sure we are effectively resolving our stories. So the stimulus that we're looking at is this one. So we've got this robot in the field. So this lesson is part of our Risking Robots series. And I've got a bunch of lessons where we look at our unique idea development, look at developing our vocabulary, excellent books that you can read, and then also the feedback on my students' writing. So I've called this one Escape. I'm going to start off by reading it to you, and then we will look at areas that are fabulous, which there always is, particularly with this student, and then areas where we can improve. Robots. I finally climbed to the shore. The smell of ripe fruits finally gave me hope. There was fresh water, lakes, and beautiful animals. The sky finally became happy after days of storm and powerful waves. And then I saw something glint between the exotic bushes. Then it came into shape. A colossal figure stepped out of the shadows. The gold copper color glowed luminously in the sunlight. It would have been spectacular if it wasn't so dangerous. It whirred non-stop and spoke in a monotone voice that sent chills down the back of my spine. It then made some sound. There was clanking, and 5 more figures came into shape. They handed my crew and I a shovel and gloves. I put them down, unsure of what to do, when a gun appeared in the robot's hand. All hope was lost. Days of working and planting with no more than a slice of watermelon all day. My body was sore. My brain was tired. The rules were simple: work or die, but life-threatening. Already half of my crew was gone, and I was ready to give up too, but I pushed. I was no longer a free person. I was a slave, a servant, someone who would never have a family. I had to escape. My brain couldn't think how to escape was all I thought. Would this torment continue? Would I ever escape? I must. It was the only way. Okay, so she always does a lovely job with her writing. Through here, the description, so straight away you can understand that it's some kind of shipwreck situation. So the climbing to the shore, the fresh water, the animals, after days of storm and powerful waves. So the ship's been in a storm, it's wrecked. And so she's found this island shore to stumble onto. So she has done a beautiful job of show, don't tell here. And now we have this robot come out. Now, linked in the description box below, I will put my descriptive writing lesson, and you can see that she has pulled out of that colossal gold copper, glowing luminously in the sunlight. Beautiful. I like this, that switch. It would have been spectacular if it wasn't so dangerous. It whirred non-stop and spoke in a monotone voice, which means that you speak in a way that means that there's no up and down in your voice. It's actually quite difficult to do. It sent chills down my spine, the clanking. So bringing in those robot descriptions, beautiful, beautiful job. And then explaining the danger here. So here we've got the problem. So the character has become a slave, and it's work or die. You will work or you will die. You will be a slave or you will die. So lovely job. So areas of improvement. She's used the word finally a lot in this paragraph. That's a small thing and an easy fix. She said in here, it whirred non-stop and spoke in a monotone voice. Then it made a sound. It was already making a sound. These are minor editing things. The main problem comes in here. So what she does in here, this is her problem here when she becomes, the character becomes a slave. This is her conclusion. So we've got our problem. Oops, that's the most terrible P I've ever done. And our conclusion, actually, let's see if I can do a little bit of a nicer job. So we've got problem here, and we've got conclusion here. And what she has tried to do is build in her resolution into her conclusion, which is okay to do, but actually she hasn't actually concluded at all. So I had to think of an escape. It was the only way, is not actually a resolution. And once again, I would say that this is a time problem. If she had had another 5 minutes to write another paragraph, she would have done a better job. And it is what it is. The expectation is that you will write in 25 minutes, but it's hard to write effectively in 25 minutes. So often what that means is that some of this stuff up here has to come out, which is a real shame because she's done a beautiful job, and I dislike the idea of bringing anything out of here because she's built up so beautifully. But she's better off taking a description out in order to make sure she's got to have her proper story arc. So when we're looking at our story arc, we've got our introduction, problem, solution, and conclusion. We have to have these 4 things in order to have an effective story arc. And then from there, you can add in characterization or build up or resolution 2 or problem 2. Sorry, I cannot type. You can have any of those things as add-ons, but you must have intro, problem, resolution, and conclusion in order to have a story. And she doesn't have a resolution. So some of this stuff in here that she added in, this has to come out so that she has time to put that in, which as I said before, is a real shame because she's done a glorious job. So how do we solve this problem? We need a resolution in here. So let's have a think aloud. How do you escape from a robot encampment on an island? Right, well, maybe you don't escape. Maybe you have a sadly ever after where you just work yourself to death. And given the time constraints, maybe that's the best path, because you could escape, but that would take a lot of writing. So say we had the 42 minutes of nap plan, well, you've still got another 17 minutes to be able to write out another 2 paragraphs, so you could do that. You would have enough time to write out a big proper escape, and like racing through the island and getting to the water, and is there a boat, is there a raft? No, I'm going to swim, and the robots are chasing after you, and they've got guns and they're shooting out behind you. And I mean, guns, I prefer if you don't write about guns because it's not really appropriate, but that kind of a thing. And you trip and you fall and the robot almost gets you, and that would be big and exciting, and I would love to see that if you had the 42 minutes of nap plan or if you had endless time. But thinking about time constrictions, how do we end this quickly but effectively? So maybe we go for he works himself to death, because it doesn't have to have a happily ever after, which is what we're used to writing about. We can have a sadly ever after. So let's say he works himself to death. Let's go with that. I mean, there are lots of different options we could have, but that's the one that's popping into my head right now. Let's see how I can write that. I was going to say the fat burned off my body, but I've used burned up here. I could either change this to scorched. Should we use scorched? And maybe I could say faded. All right, let's have a look at what I've written so far. The sun scorched high above the watermelon. If you remember before, she had said you only got a slice of watermelon in order to keep you going. Barely quenched my thirst and did not fill my tummy. The fat faded from my bones, and I began to shrivel into a tiny husk of myself. When you get those deciduous trees that drop their leaves in autumn, and you get those like dry shells, that's the husk of a shell. That's what I'm saying there. This was their plan, make you so weak that you could not possibly escape. Okay, and I did not. One day I collapsed on my sand bed and lay how about we change that to evening? One evening I collapsed on my sand bed, on my bed made of dirt, and lay there looking up at the star-filled skies, remembering how once I had used it to guide me across the calm oceans on my next adventure. So this is a very long sentence which I need to fix. What I'm saying there is that once upon a time, the sailors used to use the stars to guide them, because obviously you've just got all this water, how do you get there? So they used to use the stars. We need to put a full stop in here. I remembered how once I had used it to guide me across the calm oceans on my next adventure. Now, no, those brilliant lights. Now, I was going to use stars, but I've just used stars. So let's bring in some different vocabulary. Now, those brilliant lights guided me once more on a voyage over the clouds and up into the heavens. Okay. And that is like the character dying, going off into the sky. So now my story is resolved because he wanted to escape. I had to escape is what he wanted. Make you so weak that you could not possibly escape, and I did not. That line there specifically is my resolution. And then here I just conclude it by explaining that my soul goes up into heaven. Okay, so that is how I have quickly but effectively resolve my problem. We must make sure we have a nice, clear resolution to complete that story arc, even if it means losing some of that beautiful description, which is, as I said, is a shame. I know that it's awfully tempting to just jump straight into your writing, but taking a minute just to quickly jot down a plan so that you've got nice and clearly intro, problem, resolution, conclusion, because you don't want to put in all this hard work and then lose marks because you don't actually have a story, because you haven't put in your resolution. Okay, that brings me to the end of the lesson. Please make sure you go and check out the other lessons in this series. Everything's linked below. Please also like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps me out by helping me to be able to continue to do these videos. And thank you so much for your hard work in this lesson, and I'll see you at the next one.